And Kellie.
And
Hey, it's Jess. Glad to join in.
hey, so we decided we need
Oh,
to share some love with some of our non-Wizards of the Coast 5th edition D&D game books, and I just figured I'd start a chat with everybody and we'd totally geek out about one of the setting books that I am a huge fan of, which is the Star-Shaman Song of Plangia, which I still love as a beautiful Pangea,
I
Plangia.
know. Well,
yeah,
yeah, because it's got the elemental planes as well as Pangaea I thought it was a very clever name.
They
yeah.
definitely put some fun into it.
Yeah, call out to that. That's a good one.
Mhm.
So it starts with, of course, we will probably all be calling it Plangia for short instead of Star Shaman Song of Plangia because Plangia just rolls off the tongue so much better.
Yes.
And one thing I will definitely point out with this book is its art is beautiful. I mean, they have a ton of artists, and I have to give them credit because on page 5 they give each and every artist the picture's title and the page number, which definitely shows some love for the artists there.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It's yeah, it's easy to lose the credits in there at the back of the book and putting it right up there at the front so that people can see, yeah, who's working on this thing. It's kind of nice teacher to include.
Yeah,
Some of my favorites are the landscapes. Oh my goodness, they are just beautiful.
Yeah. And of course, there's a lot of rather wild creatures in here. So, of course, having good artists sort of help you visualize everything that is new and wild in this world is a really good thing to have.
and I'll start thumbing through the pages there, showing off these sexy arts. But
Yes.
the big thing with Plangia, it is a Stone Age setting for D&D. So unlike your classic European era fantasy, it's actually meant to be Stone Age. And one of the things that I love as a touchstone for me is, showing my age, that classic movie Quest for Fire.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
We will probably quote that
Well,
one many times, but it is like a huge touchstone for this kind of setting, with that primitive man and all the species are
I think
primitive, which
more
is
for
nice.
the landscape as well as and the way they live, not so much uh the Neanderthal, no language, no
True.
uh the Cro-Magnons that they show, probably more closer, I think, to the book because for me it was much more sword and sorcery, the old you know the that type of thing. It's much more. I get the barbarian kind of feels, but with you know uh, the more primordial or prehistoric.
Mm.
I like
Yeah.
the term that they use, stonepunk.
Stonepunk. It's a great term.
It's
Yeah.
it is the book does, and one thing that I thought was very interesting is the black taboos that they have in it, where they actually have a mechanism in the game to prevent it from stealing too much from later ages like the Bronze Age or like there's no wheels.
Yes.
You
And
It
no
use
is
right.
wheel,
forbidden.
money, writing,
Yeah.
and counting above the number 9, and the hounds will come for you. I thought, okay, you know, there's I mean, kind of makes me intrigued just to see how somebody, a very creative individual, could create an artificer character, but set in plain Gia. Think about
Yeah.
it. You get. I just envision all these like prehistoric caveman, Rube Goldberg machines.
The professor from Gilligan's Island, Stone Age
Exactly.
style.
He was a Plangia artificer.
Yeah. They mentioned later in the book that this is in part because otherwise every story devolves into people inventing writing and the wheel, and it's like, okay, how do I keep our players from like obsessing about we need to build modern technology right now? And
Exactly.
in a practical sense, if you can't, then okay, let's just focus on like actually doing story stuff here
Yep.
instead of inventing the first McDonald's drive-through.
Survival is more important. You don't want to plant no crops. They won't be there when you get back.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting. That they don't have it's hunter gatherer. It's
Mm-hmm.
nomadic life. With but then you also have like these like massive beasts. I mean, we're talking like the size. Is like a 12-story building.
Mm-hmm.
You've
Yeah.
got dinosaurs. You've got these amazing uh uh Sauron like creatures and just any possible like dire or saber
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
all rolled into one. I mean, and I can perfectly well ride a friggin' pterodactyl or create a hang glider, not like the one in that horrible movie Ator.
Yeah.
You're all thinking it.
Yes.
There's just a
The
rainbow
artificer. Oh,
friggin'
sorry.
highlight. A rainbow hang glider that's wrapped with vines. No, it's more like
And then you get the big chameleon dinosaur.
Yeah.
But that's one beautiful thing is they literally take Stone Age and Ice Age and mush them together. So you get everything. You've got your herds of dinosaurs in the plains. You've actually got the closest thing to actual civilization are the giant civilizations at the edge of the map. But the mere fact that everything in the world is in transition. So just because you went east to west doesn't mean you can go back east again because the map actually will shift, which I thought was a really cool way of that's how you emphasize hunter gatherer following the herd because
Hmm.
when you turn around and go back one day the land has changed,
Yeah.
which I thought was really cool.
I think one point to make is that when we say giant civilization, we don't mean giant in terms of quantity of people, though that can also be true,
no.
but in terms that there are actually giants who can rule over you.
Yep, the actual stone giants, the fire giants, the
Yeah.
Efreet, they are the closest thing to civilization in this primordial world. And the dragons aren't the dragons that we know from regular D&D. They're more of a primordial dragon, which
Hmm.
Yeah, they're closer
that
to
is
their
cool.
draconic ancestors than they are
Uh-huh.
Yeah. No metallic dragons here.
Nope.
All chromatic. I mean, there's no metal of any sort in this world, but it's
no.
which is another constraint that they have to deal with, and sometimes they deal with more elegantly than others. But
It's true, but it is good in the equipment section. They totally give you workarounds of so instead of ring mail, it's actually wood ringlets or ivory ringlets, which
yeah,
which you could totally, come on, we all know you can shave off the serial numbers and make it work just
yeah,
because, any RPG that's something that you can do. You just find the good workaround and say, "Hey, it's not metal. Stop using that dagger there to pry something open because it's going to chip and shatter."
yeah.
Hmm.
I wish they had a little bit more in that section because making stone plate mail is there's a reason that didn't happen.
Well,
Unless it's a dwarf. I mean,
Yeah,
and
unless it's a
speaking of the dwarfs, I have flipped to the kinships, which is what they call the different species of the world. And I
those are
do like how they reboot the ancient D&D races that we know as something new and different. Like with the dwarfs, they're still half rock. They're still elemental in being. They're not 100% flesh yet. We've got the elves that are still partially dreamy, and they basically have come straight from the what will be the Fae eventually, but they're translucent and blue, which is really cool. I
I
thought
love how
that was.
before I
Go
was
ahead.
just going to say, I love how before each of the kinships, the races, there's a little story or a little mention,
Hmm.
and some of them are very. I mean, it's like a minor encapsulation of sort of the essence of the kinship. And I thought the dwarf one was very funny. Dwarves are too stony to change. I've known a dwarf to keep a promise made a lifetime ago to his own harm, long after everyone he ever made it to was gone. I mean, that I think that says it all for.
Yeah. It's flavor text that helps get your imagination flowing and saying, okay, what is this race in this context of this world?
Oh heck yeah!
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a fan of because I'm a fan of Dark Sun. I love the fact that the halflings are psychotic little killers. Halflings are not your friendly little foes that live in their warrens. No, halflings are murderers because they know the world is out to kill them because they're tiny and there's Tyrannosaurus Rex out there.
Yes. No,
Too dark.
that's
This
delightful.
one,
I love that depiction of halflings whenever it comes up. Just little stab
Black Sun
friendly
is
bastards.
it's that the Black Sun is just too dark for me. I don't like to play that one. This one, however, um, while everything for the most part is trying to kill you in a primeval world, and you have to fight every day for your place in it, but still it has a lot of beauty and magic, like or as it refers to it as is it mystic awe.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Um, so
Yes.
yeah, it has more of a beauty to it compared to Black Sun.
Yeah, you have that opportunity to come by a tree that's taller than anything you've ever seen, and that's.
Hmm.
I didn't pull that from the book, but that is definitely something that could happen, and that could have both good or terrible implications to it.
Oh yeah. Especially if the
Yeah,
tree starts talking to you afterwards.
yeah,
Well, considering how there are tree people, the Dreas,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
which is one of the 4 new races that they have specifically for this world, I found those very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
The Dreas, as well as the Half-Boots. That one was really creepy,
That
but
one is
like kind of
super creepy.
fascinating.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the half ooze really catches my attention as like something that could be used in a number of different ways. We'll get into later how wizards work in a world where you can't write things down, but the idea
Oh
of
yeah.
being, you know, a wizard that doesn't remember how you became a wizard could be very, very interesting.
And of course, the creepy part of the half ooze is basically the person you were has been eaten by an ooze, and you're what's
Yeah,
left.
Yeah,
yeah,
and you may have some recollections of and memories from uh, the the previous host, I guess you could say, and your lifespan is halved
yeah,
Hmm.
um, based off of the host
Hmm.
body that you took over. So if it was, I think that was very interesting.
Who knew all that gray jelly in your brain is not gray jelly? Is it
And
bubbles and churns?
yeah,
yeah, and it's creepy in how they can elongate their body parts and because they're ooze.
Hmm.
yeah,
It's creepy but kind of cool,
yeah. Big
and
credit to the
driven by
artist
a
here for giving that creep factor into the art.
Hmm. And the fact that they eat twice as much as anyone else.
Yeah,
hmm they're always
And,
hungry.
and I will say one thing I really do like, of course, being a World of Warcraft fan, of course I'd like it. Orcs are actually a majestic and noble race in this plane. because they're
Yes.
seen as the apex survivalists out there with their power and their majesty and the fact that they even liberated their own city that they now claim as their own, which is great. So the orcs get to be the good guys,
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
which is another one playing with the expectations. And then of
Yeah.
course race
But
wise you've
then
got
now the gnomes are like they're actually kind of villain. They're
they
like
they they are it's their
yeah,
very
they're
nature.
literally described as filthy. I'm like, so it's weird, that they switch it up, but it's kind
Hmm.
of refreshing.
And then we've got the new race of the Sorens, which is the dinosaur people. Which
Yeah.
Saurians,
yep, you got the
yeah.
the pterodactyl type, the Ankylosaurus, the raptor people,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and then
Cool.
the starlings, which is the
Yeah.
Oh
creepiest of
yeah.
them all.
Yeah. I have to stop thinking that these are bird people.
Oh yeah, because the starling.
It's like
Starling
I'll
from
be
the
reading the book
sky.
like 10 pages later, and it's like Starling. Of course, that's a bird person. It's like, no, star people, not bird people.
Glowy stars that have fallen to the Pangea.
Yeah, I mean, this is a part of the lore that we haven't discussed yet. Is that the stars are holy shit? How do you even go over this? Is that the stars are alive? They have discussions. They have wars. The one that wins is the day star for the day.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have a fixed moon. The moon sort of just is a thing that gets thrown across the sky and disintegrates, and you might have more than one, or you might have zero. I fucking love this context of the world where it's just like, yeah, this is fantastical.
Yeah, I mean, it literally is. All of the planes of elements are still interacting with the material realm, so everything is in flux. There's nothing
Yeah.
status quo.
Or as it calls it, the swirling sky, because they're in constant motion with
Mhm.
no fixed points. It's not like you can navigate to the North Star or anything, because these are active beings, that type
Because
of
the
thing.
North Star descended to interact with people and then went back up.
Yeah,
A very Neil Gaiman.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
And it does harken back to like the old Greek and Roman stories where the stars are doing things. You
Hmm.
know, all of a sudden one constellation goes after another because it wants to be in charge because it can.
Yeah, yeah. But the starlings are the stars made human.
Hmm.
Uh,
Fallen to Earth, and
yeah,
Sometimes you get jealous watching all these mortals having fun and you want to just come down for a while.
yeah.
And then of course they've got the reimagination of the classes, which I love the touches that they've given them. We've
Yeah.
got the aesthetic, which is their version of the monk.
Hmm. Yeah.
Then we've got
Some of
the
these subclasses are also
barbarian.
kind of very interesting to me.
Oh heck yeah!
Yeah.
The path of the far striker barbarian.
Oh
That's
yes, I would love that.
ridiculous.
the one that I thought was very interesting was the Druid. What they're called, god leeches,
Yeah.
and clans hate them. I mean, it's like, which is totally different from what we would normally think of
uh
in
it's
regular D&D.
it's
Is
the
they're
total
the
twist
noble
on that.
guardians of nature and that type of thing. But in this setting, you know, they're not liked at all.
The fact
Hmm.
that you can be
I
put to
found that
death.
interesting. Hmm?
Yeah, nature does not like you messing around with it in this setting. I mean, rangers are similarly
Hmm.
Uh-huh.
like not the good guys per se. They are.
They're also an affront to, but considering how in this setting nature is literally a living, breathing entity, or many entities, between the gods being, yeah, that tree over there is a god. You see that giant bear? It's a god. you know, um, that they're very one and surrounded. It's not, they're not some concept or distant, entity to pray to. You could literally go to the god and say, here's my offering, you know.
Yeah.
And
You know,
that's one of. Oh, go ahead.
it was interesting to think that like one of the things that's established as an absolute evil in the setting is the slavery, which is things that the giants participate in, or enforce is probably a better word. And in that context, when plants are alive, when animals are sentient, and all that, having a class that like controls plants and animals actually is a fairly evil class.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
I mean, and like Kelly was talking about the gods, one thing I do like with this setting is, as someone who often plays a cleric when I get to play, is the fact that the shaman, which is this setting's version of the cleric, can change their domains on the regular.
Huh.
Because one god is not the god of the entire area. You actually have to go around and petition a young god to say, "Can you loan me your mojo, please? I'll give you some worshippers. I'll sing your songs. I'll tell your tales. And would you give me your power?" And the fact that the shamans, as they travel, can totally get the local divine boost from whichever local god or spirit that they're following. And it definitely gives you that old that old world idea of it's the nature spirits, that some are good, some are bad. Like, even if you look at the TV show Avatar, they touched on that with
Yeah.
Korra, of the different spirits that, well, they became stronger because people whispered their stories and said their words. So a new regional god can give you another domain.
Yeah,
Well,
that's a
and since
that's a
it's
really interesting
nomadic,
idea. I can imagine that as you're traveling around, you might, I've been worshiping Atta for a long time, but I don't have any coverage here, so I'm switching my worship to Verizon.
Hmm.
exactly. Oh my God, that is just brilliant. And they have to travel. It's like this is nomadic lifestyles. There are very few that can just sit and stay, because they have to follow because they can't plant, they can't farm. There's no agriculture in that capacity. So petitioning the other gods for
Yeah.
and
that
one
is
of
like the best analogy.
mhm. And one of the cool things is they mention it, but they leave it up to the players and the GM that
They're
there
on
are
the
divine
international plan.
alliances. There are divine alliances where one god can communicate with another god saying, "Hey, yo, my shaman's coming. Give him shit, but loan him some mojo." So there is that you can totally say that your god told you to seek out. It totally gives you that Star Wars Rebels feel where you go there and you find the Bendu on the planet, who's this powerful creature, but he wants you to figure stuff out for yourself.
Hmm.
But you also have to be careful that because in this setting, gods eat other gods.
Gods consume other gods. Like, there was this one playthrough of one of the published adventures they have where there's this crocodile god that the party can choose to work with, betray, or save their god, which is a little tiny bird, because it's weak and it's a baby god, so it looks like a tiny little bird. And the crocodile god's like, "I'll help you guys out to go save your bird god because I want to eat it, bring it back to
Eat
me
it.
when you're done." And of course, that would totally go with the old stories, of the crocodile talking, spirit, saying, "Sure, bring that thing within my teeth grasp. Yeah, I'll make the waters recede for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll drain the river so you can cross it. And then when you come back, well, you can ride on my back."
yeah. The
Yeah. You could have some
river.
really interesting plots where it's just like your whole tribe is having to navigate from one place to another, and because you're going on a different path than normal, because you can't go in a straight line in this place,
Hmm.
and nothing is ever regularly where you think it is, that is like, oh, I am not in my cleric domain anymore.
Yep.
I am in the domain of this other god who I don't have any relationship with, and what the fuck do I do now?
Exactly.
Or
It's
they
like,
could have gone into Nod
oh,
as well, because in this setting, you can actually walk the plains of dreams and nightmares.
mhm.
Sort of like a shortcut if you have the right guide to get to a place, like in the book uses example of you have to prepare for winter and you have to get ahead of the winter, and sometimes that's an option to get to a better situation before winter hits, and time is of the essence. You may risk a trip through Nod, to do that. So
Freezing to death in your loinskins or having to deal with some fae and witches. I
yeah,
mean, let's be honest. I wouldn't want to freeze to death.
Yeah.
or
So
starve because there's no food or game,
Mhm.
nothing to
And
scavenge.
and then they've got the different backgrounds, which they give a great flavor text for it. Especially since a big part of the game is it does focus on the group, not just as the players, but the fact that you're part of a clan. And
yeah. Can I
I
go backwards for a second for just to
sure.
talk about the spell skins?
Yeah, I
Okay.
was gonna say we there is another class we should talk about.
Yeah, the spell skins are the wizards in this game, which is how you are trying to work around the fact that you need a spell book without having being able to write.
And it's not just right. Anything any type of symbology that
Mhm.
can convey meaning over distance.
Mhm.
That's how the book described it.
Anything more than
So,
cave paintings, basically.
I mean, exactly.
Mhm.
So, like, if
So
you had hide with scrimshaw in it, that's forbidden.
yeah. So it's an interesting thing of having to paint entire walls with your spells per se in a way that does not anger the hounds.
Hmm.
And it is a very risky practice as a result. And not every clan is into having one of these people around.
This is true. I mean,
Well,
they might be
some of the clans,
immensely powerful, but they bring the
some
hounds.
clans hate all magic.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Which is
yeah, it's
great
one of
because that
those.
harkens back to the old barbarian stories.
Yeah, it's we'll get into it later, but it's one of the great factions I find is that the people that want to learn more, maybe to even defeat the hounds, versus the people that are going to go a little bit crazy about the whole thing and maybe I can accumulate enough power first and then beat them, even though they're sure as hell
Is it
coming after
even
me.
possible to defeat the hounds? Because
Well,
they'll just keep coming after you until you're dead. I mean,
yeah,
they are the Terminators.
It is the equivalent of the show Supernatural's hellhounds. You can't really see them, and the important thing is they don't have stats. And if it doesn't
yeah,
have stats, you can't kill it.
yeah. So it's not a practical plan at all. It is just people you know, dreaming of pie in the sky. But it's I find it very, very cool. And I also realized my idea of a spell skin with the half ooze trait accidentally recreates the movie Memento. Um, why is all this stuff written on me? I have to figure it out again.
You start bending your arms and legs together in different ways, and different forms and words appear.
Yeah, gotta
Think of
kill
it
the guy.
like the Constantine tattoos, where he holds his arms together. And it's now a protection circle.
Ooh, that'd be cool.
That would
God,
be
there's
cool.
still ideas in there.
Yeah,
That's why we like
and
the setting.
yeah, it's a great setting. And the warlocks, they've got the Pact of the Scar.
Oh, I love that one. It's just the dark forest.
Hmm.
Just
See, one of the ideas I came up with when I rolled up a bunch of characters was a Dryad Warlock of the Dark Forest. And it's just like, oh, that's just scary. It crawled out of the woods and blended in with the people, and it's totally going to betray everybody eventually.
yeah. The dark forest is out to kill everything that is not a plant. So
I mean, can you blame it? It's green peace with chloroform.
Yeah. No, there's some really cool stuff in there, between creating, your own like magical injuries of moss and fungus on people, and giant trees to attack your enemies. And it's like, yeah, I could do
the
that.
the fact that you can reclaim corpses that you kill.
Yes.
Oh look, there's a tree. There's no body.
Yeah.
Oh, and I can talk telepathically with that tree that grew out of the corpse.
Yeah, that's disturbing as hell.
Yep. But freaking awesome.
That's freaking awesome. Lots of potential there.
Kind of
Especially before you
creepy
teach someone.
though.
And one thing I do like is a lot of the backgrounds actually will, you can pick any class you want. The background tells you what you do in your tribe.
Yes.
Is because the tribe is central to the group, because I could totally see a campaign that's literally just a the campaign's basis is we start at spring and we end at winter. Does the tribe get to where it needs to go? And that's the campaign's arc, you know.
Yeah.
And it's a story of survival of it's springtime, everything is growing and everything is good. Summertime, okay, there's competition with rival groups going for the same herds.
Mm-hmm.
Fall, oh shit, things are getting bad. And then winter, do we get to the special valley in time, you know?
Yeah.
Oh my god, did I just quote that dinosaur movie from back when we were all kids? Is there a tree
Yeah.
star in Plangia? You know there's got to be.
Yeah.
And one thing it does push to, which I really love in D&D and you don't see a lot of, is the crafting.
Yes.
They
Yeah,
actually
'cause
really do
everything
push,
has to be.
since you make things that characters can craft stuff, because it's not like you can take your purse with 15 gold and go buy a thing. No, it actually, different backgrounds are actually specifically geared and set up to craft things for the group
Mm-hmm.
or gather
Yeah.
food for the group,
Yeah.
which, you know, literally hunter gatherer are two backgrounds, which I think are funny because they do work really well together.
Yeah.
Especially
And
if you don't want a ranger, but you want to play like a ranger. Totally go with the hunter.
yeah. And there's also the whole aspect of you're going to be fighting fantastical giant things. And for once, there's kind of a system here for let's build something out of that corpse. That is
Exactly.
that is required. That is not, your players being a freak.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one thing I love is it actually has the recipe idea of breaking this down into that. Here's the resource you get from the kill. So it's not just going to make the druid angry that you're killing things, because you actually have to survive.
Yes. And
Everything can be used from a kill, or should be used for the kill.
Hmm.
yes. It's like one of those classic things that I've had with players where it's like they're like, "Oh, it's a cockatrice head. I should keep that and we'll have some use for it later." And as a DM, you're like, "I have no idea." In general idea. And here it's like, that is the system. If you
Uh-huh.
don't do that, you're stupid. Excuse the language. You're supposed to be taking the cockatrice's head, because if you don't, your tribe is going to be like, "What are you thinking?"
You're
Yep.
starving. You're gonna.
Yeah, give that to the shaman. He'll like MacGuffin it into something, and
He'll totally
that's
make it
great.
into a magic mask aspect of the
Yes.
cockatrice.
Mm-hmm. It's. I mean, there's still some room for the DM to like make stuff up here, but it's like it's a little bit more like built into the box.
Hmm.
Mhm.
And they totally give you some leverage too. I mean, like when it comes to crafting, they hear our options, because like you guys have heard it in my games where I'm like, okay, you're using this proficiency. What
Mm-hmm.
stat are you using with? Are you using your dexterity? Are you using your wisdom? And they even listed in the crafting section that intelligent means that you're using, you understand the nature of the materials. That's how it's helping you. Wisdom, well, you know that you can evaluate the best parts to use for this. Strength, well, you're twisting and rending and you're forcing it to work. Or dexterity, you're just, crafting the components with a beautiful finished product. So that way players don't feel like, oh, well, I'm only good with dex. I can't make a stone weapon. Well, actually, yes, you can. You can nap that stone weapon and make yourself one.
Yeah. They've applied that to a lot of different areas, and I've appreciated that. It's not just wisdom that gets you from place to place. Sometimes it's intelligence.
Exactly.
Sometimes, dexterity. Whatever you're probably not going to use your constitution to get from place to place, but
True.
But it gives you some options there for this is how your players might use a different stat, because you don't want only your wisdom based character to be doing a lot of stuff.
Hmm. And then the book leads us into the spell section, which I thought was cool. That each what used to be called in D&D a school, but is actually called magical origins. Each school of magic is related to a certain kinship that created it, which I thought was cool.
Yeah.
Like abjuration is the dwarves, conjuration is the genies, divination was from the giants, enchantment is elves, evocation is the dragons, because of course they're primordial creatures of the elements. The gnomes with illusions. I could totally see this band of gnomes living in their totally camouflaged out illusion home that in the
Mhm.
home looks nothing like the forest, but outside is totally camouflaged. It's forest gnomes at their best. And the Saurians with their necromancy, and the orcs with transmutation.
Yeah, we didn't mention this when we were talking about the Saurians, but the Saurians are very obsessed with their ancestors. So
True.
necromancy fits very well with them. They have a cantrip which is just, talk with my friendly ancestors. It's like, okay.
Could totally see them doing the Sleestek thing of having the skulls of their ancestors to summon them.
Yeah, I confess I read that cantrip before I read the Saurian entry, so I was like, why is there a cantrip just for finding friendly undead?
Because
Usually not a thing in campaigns. Is here.
sometimes you need it. I mean, that is the one nice thing, is that Plangia does kind of break the tropes that 5th edition tried to turn people away from. Like in classic 5th, there's no evil alignment players. Certain magics kind of frowned on.
Yeah.
We had to put it in the book so the bad guys can use it, but we don't want players to really use it. Here,
Yeah.
it's just like, hey, that's part of your culture.
Yes.
Ancestor worship is a thing.
Yeah. If you could actually talk to your ancestors when you do ancestor worship, why not?
Yeah,
Why would
I
that be
mean, if you've ever played the Barbarian Path of the Spirits, I think it is. No, it's Path of the Ancestors, where
Yeah.
when you fight, you summon your dead tribesmen up to serve with you. It's a ridiculous path for the barbarians.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
then, of course, we get to part 2 of the book, for the Game Master.
I'll say
And
one thing about the spells. They have one spell that I love, which is buries people in the dirt. I love that. It's like, if I'm going to steal one thing there from this book, I'm going to steal that for any character I can. Just,
Mhm.
I have buried you in the earth, and you have to deal with that now.
Yeah, you're now buried up to your neck. What are you going to do?
Yep.
Though I do love for the cleric, they've got the cantrip of form weapon,
Yeah.
which you can always use that cantrip.
Yes. Just keep throwing them at people.
Yep. Druid and clerics are saying, here's a weapon, here's a weapon, here's a weapon, here's a weapon. By the end of the fight, it's going to fall apart. But for now, you've got a weapon. Congratulations, you're an armed society.
Yeah.
And of course, we did kind of gloss over it, but the bard is the chanter. The
Yeah.
storyteller, more like a skald than a bard. Because, of course, magic being, not good. But if I'm telling you stories, that's totally different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Very much appreciate them. They have the spell magic skis, which I will always laugh at.
The
It's
magic
it's
skis, yep. I
yep,
just turned
entirely
to
a
that
practical
page,
setting,
too.
but getting to hand out magical snowboards to your entire party, awesome.
Yep. And one thing I will totally give them on the spells that are setting specific, if you look at the components, they totally made sure that any Stone Age society could get a hold of the things. Because as opposed to like
Yeah.
in the player's handbook, there's some components that are a pain in the ass to get, which is why everybody says I have a component pouch. But,
Yes.
you know, like, oh, look, lava leap. I have some pumice, some stone. Or if you're casting magic skis, like you said, pine needles and water. That's all I need. Pine needles and some water. Flick, and now you can snowboard.
Yeah. You're turning your friends' stones into bones so they can be tough as hell and beat the crap out of someone.
Yep.
You need a stone and a bone. It's a good system.
It's a great system, and you can tell they enjoyed writing this. You could so
Yeah.
tell just reading the bits and pieces from the beginning of each career and each species. You
Yeah.
know that they put lots of work into this before the Kickstarter that originally kicked this off happened. And
Yeah.
one thing like in the DM section says there's big themes that they want in this game, and one is like dynamic combat. They don't just want I walk up and swing my sword. No, no, no,
No.
no. Get dynamic with that stuff. Use countdown dice that if you don't do something by now, something bad is going to happen or it's going to get worse. Make sure that the fights are not just static standing in one place. People are moving and shifting, things are happening. Bring that pulp action into it.
Yes.
Because so many things have lair actions, which is a big one I love. Because of course you're going to be attacking a creature in its territory.
Hmm. And when things have sort of the supernatural essence to them by default, you could say, yeah, it
Mm-hmm.
makes sense for things to have layer actions. The crocodile just happens to be unusually large and attack you with the vines around it. That's just a thing that happens.
Mm-hmm. It knows right where to churn its tail to cause the current to pull you in the water. The
Yeah.
you thought you were on solid ground. It's actually just mud and roots. So when he
Yeah.
whips his tail, it sucks you under.
Yeah.
And unlike fifth edition, I do like how they pump up the fear, dread, and terror. So many
Yeah.
things have the ability to actually scare the crap out of you. Like oozes that will find you when you're sleeping, crawl in your ear and eat you. And then a
Yeah.
thing will get up in the morning.
Yeah. Yeah. That was one of the stories that was terrifying. The introduction to the half ooze.
Oh yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
it
Yeah.
is very creepy.
and
Yeah.
who knew you just laid on some dry ground where an ooze got swept away in mudstorm a month ago and is slowly creeping its way up through the ground. And its little pseudopod poked around and felt a warm breath on it and it crawled towards the sleeping person. That's some horror movie shit right there.
Yeah. That it
Especially
is.
when you find the caves full of ooze. That's just nasty.
Hmm. Oh, you're gonna give me nightmares.
And I will say the artwork, like Kelly was saying earlier, the landscape shots definitely
Mm.
do lead to the inspiring awe of this primordial natural place. It's like watching those clips of Naked and Afraid when they show the beautiful vistas of places that we will never get to see, and it's like, whoa, that's some shit. Look at that waterfall.
Well,
Yes.
and they describe the Plangia as this um, vast expanse of, vast landscape
Mm-hmm.
that is immeasurable. So when you see some of these images in the book, it helps to, uh, inspire that type of, you
Oh,
know,
yeah.
uh,
I mean, as a GM,
imagery
you
in
could
your head.
flip and show to the players, right there at the game table. You just say, "This is what you see." My words cannot encapsulate what you're looking at in this image here.
Yeah.
And then the book gets us to one of the other parts I love because I love skills. We all know in
Mhm.
5th edition they handicapped a lot of skills that we were used to back in the 3.5 and 4 days, but
Yeah.
wilderness tools. They basically pointed out to you as a player group in this world, you are going to be traveling, camping, surviving, and traveling again. So there's no sitting down in one city with a tavern and that's our headquarters. You're constantly on the move, which from an RPG point of view, it's great because there's your motivation for your player group to go and discover and explore.
Yeah.
But they actually give you tools in regards to your skills of, hey guys, old skills, new uses, and it totally gives you breakdowns of like animal handling. You can use that to watch animal behavior using flight, migration, or grazing patterns to navigate. So somebody who doesn't have survival could actually use animal handling to follow the herd, which in Plangia, the herd's probably better than actually trying to navigate.
Yeah.
Well, the book even mentions following the herd is one of the main uh, triggers also for winter when they start seeing them move south.
Mm-hmm.
You know, oh, well, we need to start thinking of winter because if it starts getting cold, it's already too late.
Yep. I mean, one I love is using your insight skill, which is normally used to read someone's intentions, to actually reading the land's mood, detecting a will to mislead through changed locations. So you can actually suss the land itself with its opinion.
You can also persuade the land to implore to not be an asshole, basically. Allow safe passage. Easy passage, please. That would be
Mm-hmm.
wonderful.
We're gonna just leave a little kern of rocks here to make you
Mm-hmm.
happy with us, to let us pass in peace.
Yeah. Whew. Makes me think about what deception would be in that case. You don't want to flop that roll. That will
Of course,
that would
you
rock and roll. Yeah.
you know something. Looking at one of the pictures, just thought made me think of. You want to use deception to make sure the T-Rex doesn't leave a giant walnut in front of your camp. I mean,
Oh my
when I first got this book when it came out on the Kickstarter, I totally wrote this idea of, okay, the group's motivation is there's an angry solo T-Rex stalking the group.
Yeah.
And this thunder lizard, because of course in the game you wouldn't call it a T-Rex, it would be the Thunder King, the thunder lizard. And it's basically it's the motivation for your tribe to keep moving, because if you move faster than the herd, well, it's eating the herd instead.
Yeah.
And
Whew.
of course, for you GMs out there that don't think you have good ideas for maps, they actually codified so well the dice drop, which I've done on my tiny 2x4 whiteboard way back in the day, where you just grab a handful of dice and you drop them,
Mhm.
and you start circling on this map of what the numbers come up with. So if like your D10 came up with a 1 or 2, dinosaurs. Don't know the details, but dinosaurs right there. 3 or 4, giant plants.
Yeah.
5 or 6, gnomes. There's gnomes here. It's this, you can use just randomness of the randomest sort to create things. And then basically on the map, you take a picture with your cell phone and you can draw some details between it and say, hey, here's the path between the giant plants and the gnomes. Because you got to say gnomes like that. Gnomes.
Yeah. But it also adds things like, you can have things like environmental obstacles, which are so important to having your
Yeah.
dynamic battles of like, they use the early example early on of like, you're doing it on a cliffside that crumbles over time, and that's exciting. But it's like you just
That's
need
a
to have
great
those
one.
settings that
Yeah.
it's not fighting on a grid of squares. You're fighting in a place.
hmm And then it gives you a great little list of like, lots of tables. Like, hey, social encounter. So you need one in a pinch, roll a d6. Here's the social encounter you can pop up with. You need wandering animals? Here you go. You know,
Yep. Yep. Wandering predators.
as I stop to read and go, oh yeah, markers. You find banners and other items there. It's like, so what happened to the last people that were here? I don't know.
Broken bones, blood smears, scratches, and other signs.
Just enough to get your players on edge, you know.
Yeah.
As a GM, you could totally be sitting there as your players are having a sidebar and talking, and you roll your dice and you go, huh, broken bones and blood smears. And you just wait for the room to get quiet. And then the book totally gives you tools of, it's still D&D. So you could of course take any D&D adventure and reskin it in Stonepunk, but they give you guys the idea that you don't need a tavern like in D&D. You have the clan fire, which is at the middle of your camp. You have the big fire where everyone is welcome. Fights are put on hold for this. So even if you have a rival in your tribe that you're with, at the clan fire, you knock that crap off. Everyone gathers to share the fire. It's a big centerpiece of your community. It's not just the you know, tavern. It's also the job board where you can discuss jobs, because you could totally go out there as a GM and instead of the old man in the tavern next to the fire that will give out the job to the adventurers, it's the old blind man staring off into the fire that will tell a story to the hunters and gatherers, saying, they spoke of a night once before like this, when a star fell, that there could be star metal. If you go in the morning this way, maybe find something. And of course, hilarity ensues then. And the fact
Clarity.
that you can use caves instead of castles and dungeons.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, there are no temples. There's just things erected out in the woods.
Yeah. Yeah. They have guidelines on making your own clans, which is
That
all
that
important.
one I loved, because that way,
Yes.
you could have 3 or 4 gaming groups in the same world, all in different tribes that maybe they have the clan moots, and then they separate and split up like what clan societies would. You
Yeah.
know, the fact that every clan usually will have a primary god and then a network of gods, or those that scorn the gods.
Yes. It also provides the opportunity that, hey, maybe you do need to go make an alliance with the people next door as you're moving downstream
Hmm.
towards warmer weather. And it's like, who have we run into? Could it be a clan of halflings, just a small one, who happen to be probably going to stab us, or
Hmm.
it could be some noble half-orcs.
You wake up and they're chewing on your toes.
Yeah. And it gives you all sorts of things to roll at or read through and decide, hey, this makes sense to me. And I always appreciate those sorts of tables because, sometimes you just need ideas for what the hell you're trying to build.
Yeah, and in this way you could pop out with a few quick dice rolls. In 30 minutes, you could knock out a small clan for the group, and then as a GM, you look across the table saying, hey, here is your small tribe. It's about 1d6 plus 10 people, includes a chieftain and a shaman, and it has 1d3 minus 1 elders and 1 notable character. And then you can ask questions on them of like, okay, so who is the chieftain? I mean, is one of you guys the chieftain? That could totally be a thing. I mean, a lot of the backgrounds will totally put you up as like the next in line for a position in those backgrounds, which
Mm-hmm.
that's important too, because then you could have your initiating thing of, okay, well, the group goes off to hunt a stegosaurus. A rival group comes and attacks and kills a couple people, and how are you going to deal with that? Who's
Yeah.
going to cowboy up and take that position?
Yeah. There's a lot of potential there for just the interaction with your own NPCs in that little world.
Hmm. Which, as a GM, that's always fun when you have NPCs in the group that you know the group will be coming back to assist, because that's the whole thing. Is it's not just a team of 5 against the world. You need your clan to come back to.
Mm-hmm. I think another interesting aspect of these clans is that apparently important to them is what are your nearby materials.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad, sometimes they're just goddamn perilous.
Yep. Sometimes too much of a good thing is not good.
Yes. You have access to rare monster parts. Guess what's attached to those?
It comes
Rare
with monsters.
Yep. If for some reason you are wandering around without a tribe right now, you could become very popular very quickly.
And that's one too, that when if the group all pick different kinships, that's not a problem. You just have to decide, okay, what is the core of this clan? Are they humans? Are they elves? Are they human and elves? Because remember,
Mhm.
you can totally eventually have the half elves eventually.
Yep. You'll look a little freaky being half transparent, but sorry, that's me being judgmental.
It's only from the shoulders up can you see through me.
Yeah.
And of course, there are magic structures that your group can have. A magical totem, a magical circle, a spell wall. There are things that your tribe will keep near and dear to itself.
Yeah. I mean, I think something we haven't touched on at all at this moment is that the tribe has things like being able to cast magic collectively.
Mm-hmm.
You collectively create magical items.
Yeah, they can totally do the ritual aspect of, instead of going to church and praying for the cleric, y'all get together and say, let us pray for this.
Yeah.
And the nice thing too is, with the clan fire, you can list out, like, what during the morning, during the clan, fire timing. You show up, you can go to talk, you can get tasks, you can depart, you can craft. So that way the group knows this is why this is important to the team. Because there's certain stuff that maybe you want to go to the clan fire in the afternoon and have someone craft something for you while you go off to adventure, which is nice.
Yeah.
You could totally get the classic RPG fetch quest. Go get me 20 rats and I will make you a rat coat, because I need 20 rats to actually skin to make your coat. This is why I need these things. There's important reasons here.
Yeah. And there's a lot of reasons here to create like your own little NPC network of like, here's, Greg the fisherman.
Mm-hmm.
He goes out every day. He fishes.
Yep.
If you want him to catch something, you want him to go fishing for something specific because you need it for a ritual, just let him know.
Yep.
I'm sure there's more interesting versions of that. The hunters that I need this particular horn.
Oh, heck yeah.
Gather herbs. It's like, yeah, there's like a network of like, it's not stores. You're trying to basically get favors from people
Mm-hmm.
that are already doing this shit.
And it's barter system at its best. Which that is one thing I do like. They made a currency equivalent in salt. One salt equals what would normally be a gold coin in case you need to quantify a good trade. So that
Yeah.
way you're not, each time the trade is like, how did this thing become way more valuable than it is now? It's the equivalent of how much salt.
Yeah.
Well,
Which,
Of course,
I
salt
like how
more or less valuable. Oh, go ahead.
I like how the game also goes into, well, I mean, examples of quantifying since there's no currency, but for different types of things on it, it gives you a correlation between what a medieval society would have, which would be the prototypical D&D setting, to what their equivalent would be in a stone age version. And
mhm,
having that in the book, I think, helps everybody to relate more to that type of environment um, than what you would typically see. So it translates it.
exactly. And like
Yeah.
for services, you would know what you need to trade to get someone to do this for you.
Yes. So it's interesting that apparently portions of salt can lose their value if you have too much salt in the area. But I imagine the same thing is true of gold in a world. But
That
try
whole
not
supply and
to buy.
demand.
Yeah, I think that's them trying to keep some realism that if you're sitting on top of a giant pile of salt as a clan, then maybe you can't trade salt for things.
Although it is an interesting point of fact is that the Roman legions, part of their salary was salt.
Mm-hmm.
It was given to them in salt. Just salt was so very important because it tastes good.
Hey, it improves the
And it
flavor
can
of
be used
food. It's a
and
preservative.
preservation. Yeah,
Mm-hmm. And
very important.
anywhere you go, it's going to have perceived value. I mean,
Yeah,
coins might maybe not so much the further north you go, but the salts, the further from the ocean you get to, and salt mines, the more valuable that stuff gets.
yeah. Um, Going back to the point of the equivalence, um, it is interesting they have a couple suggestions if you feel like the armor and the weapons should actually be a little bit less powerful because of the
Mm-hmm.
Stone Age level technology. I wish they'd explore that a little bit more. Just because, hey, a stone broadaxe is a little bit of an odd idea in some ways. Stone, plate mail, all that.
Uh-huh.
But there is, I mean, the fact of the matter is, there's not a lot of necessarily precedent of like, how do you make thick armor if you don't have metal? We
Mm-hmm.
don't live in a world where that history exists.
Yeah, I remember back in the like early Dark Sun age, they totally adjusted all the weapons down one die
Yeah,
because of the whole there is no metal.
yeah, that's one of the suggested things here, and it's like they definitely mention that this will make the campaign significantly harder.
All of a
Also,
sudden you're
reducing all
grinding.
the ACs is going to make you get stabbed quite a bit. It's just
Everyone is squishier but take longer to kill.
yeah,
And then I know the rangers out there in any D&D setting will appreciate the taming track, how to
mm-hmm.
tame animals to be your friends. It's a great set of rules that you can totally steal for any D&D setting
Yeah,
because, a lot of times your players will say, "I want to train that thing." And it's like, "So, here's how difficult it's going to be. First you have to subdue it, then you have to trap it, then you've got to train it, you know. Here's what you have to roll against. Good luck."
yeah,
But I want that T-Rex as my pet. And of course,
yeah,
they've got the creepy adventure environments to add extra creepiness to it.
yeah.
I
Yeah,
love I love the cave drawing of the beholder. It's the circle with the swirly arms.
yeah,
And then sometimes you just need to have certain apex domains in the area so that way when you get there, the groups immediately get the idea of what's going on. Like, oh, you just found some dwarven ruins. Don't know why
yeah,
they're empty. Don't know why they're there, but we're going to find out what's going on. And of course, since the world is constantly moving, the tables here really do help the GM because that way you can totally say, "Hey guys, you just walked into a roving forest. So, when characters enter a roving forest, assume the trees are conscious of their presence.
yeah.
You know, I don't
I like
like it when the trees know I'm here."
yes, I like the idea of the divided forest where the different trees have different feelings about the adventurers. So you could have one that's dropping like gentle fruit gently on you, and the next one is very viciously dropping fruit on you.
The trees have disagreed on their opinions, so the pomegranates are pummeling you, while the avocados are embracing you.
Yeah,
I just have visions of Wizard of Oz, and the trees are throwing their own apples.
I mean, is
yes.
that actually child abuse? You're throwing your fruits. It is a drive-by fruiting.
Hmm.
And then, of course, to make GM's life so much easier if your group decides to take that passage into Nod. There's an easy, hey, here's a random encounter of something weird that the group is running into. Because
Yes.
you're going in Nod, you're going to see some weird stuff.
Yeah.
Everybody, don't drink the wine berries.
I would have liked a little bit more detail in that section, just given that it's a whole new reality, but I understand. There's only so much room for anything in this book.
Yep, and thankfully you could steal so much from any of the Fey Realms books too.
Oh, yes, yes. That's actually a very nice thing about this book, is that it's very easy to slot in little bits from here and there, despite being a very different setting.
And the fact that they managed to sneak in vampires.
Yeah. Run Vampire the Masquerade in a Stone Age setting, why not?
Because
Sure.
now you have no silver weapons. What are you going to do?
We've replaced silver with shiny wood.
There you go.
I'm sure that's the exact change in this game. Yeah, how do you kill werewolves in this setting?
Oh, that would suck.
That
Well,
I
would.
they
mean,
do mention it.
you'd have to use magic
There are
weapons. I mean, thankfully your shaman has the ability to make a magic weapon as a cantrip.
Yeah. Very true. Holy shit.
And of course, they do have some pretty maps in there, and I love that the distance at the bottom is a suggestion.
Yeah.
If you've not zoomed in on the maps, the distance, it's more of a guideline, really.
It's more of a guideline. Yes.
It says scale, and it's got two lines with a line connecting them, but there's no scale in the map. Because, of course, everything is constantly shifting.
Yeah.
But
And
it
it's
gives
helpful to have some idea of where things are in relation to each other, so you don't just wander from the Earth Empire to the Air Empire in one step or two.
yep.
But
But
you know,
everything else is flowy, flowy.
yeah. Hmm.
But yeah, I am definitely a big fan of the setting. I mean, the artwork, of course, it is great if you can get to the Great Valley. Oh my God, that's the name in that old cartoon, isn't it? With the dinosaurs and the tree stars.
No,
Oh, Land
that's
Before Time.
Yeah, the
Land
Land
Before
Before
Time.
Time. What was the valley called that they go to every year?
Oh, I saw that movie maybe once.
I had
I
sisters who had to watch it every 3 days. But I think it was the Great Valley.
Sounds right.
You're Googling, aren't you?
I am. It is in fact the Great Valley.
look
And of
them up.
course, it gives you a nice breakdown of, hey, here's what the storm giants, the fact that they're fighting krakens, in the
Hmm.
oceans. They're a little busy fighting primordial tentacle things. You've got the fire giants, the different factions. They give you a great breakdown in the major players out there, so that way it's easier for your GM to keep track of them.
Yeah. Keep an idea, get some ideas of where you may want people to go or not go.
Yeah, or not go might be a good one. And I will totally give them props on the faction list. It lists the page telling you about the faction, so you don't
Yeah.
have to like go back to the index and flip back and flip forward. And they give a really good summary in the faction page of like, here are the lead NPCs. Here's their shared philosophy among all of their people.
Yeah.
And
Similar things with the threats of like, this is why this is a threat. They do a really, really good job with some of the tables in here of just,
yeah, the page layout is amazing.
yeah.
And then, of course, they give you the warning of the what winter is like. Because, of
Yeah.
course, winter is the enemy of everyone.
Hmm.
That's when you totally decide to say, hey, Bear Clan, can we hang out with you guys? I read your stats. You're pretty cool.
Yeah, I like Bear Clan.
I mean, they are one of the cool ones.
I'm kind of fond of the Free Citadel. That seems like a place that would be cool for winter.
For player characters, that's like the place you want to get to eventually, I think, because that's like the one free city that you could actually, hey, this is civilization.
Yeah, you have stolen a city from the giants.
Thank you,
You
orcs.
can actually run a whole campaign there, like of intrigue and all of that jazz. It could be very interesting. Sorry, I laugh at the idea of just like, wow, you are trying to not get kicked out into that city if you can get in there.
If at all possible.
I
Yeah,
mean, it's a town full of orc revolutionaries who created a birthplace of hope.
yeah,
And of course, the fact that it still has lots of spoils left in it in the Citadel.
yeah. Still vaults to crack into because
Hmm.
it's not safe to always crack into a giant's vault.
Sometimes you have to. Other times you find out it was just a giant's privy and it's full of slimes.
Yeah, I mean that would be a great use for slimes. It's just dissolving all your poop up until they climb up and need to eat you from the inside. But that's a
Whoop.
different problem.
You sleep.
Poke, poke, poke.
Yeah.
And of course, they
Yeah.
give you some beautiful maps for the free city.
Yes.
And of course,
Always love
they tell
things
you
like
the free city is great, but we need food, so go out and bring us food. Because
yeah.
what happens when you have a free city?
Yeah. It's they pretty accurately depict it as a giant city in the mountain, and it's like, yeah, that's not a great place for farming or hunting or anything. Yep. Go out there and feed us.
I
We
mean,
don't
that's
have a slave class to do that for us anymore.
I mean, anyone that uses pterodactyls as your birds of prey, I mean,
Yeah.
I've yet to come across that picture, but I remember it's in here where there's those frost giants, and he's got a pterodactyl as his falcon.
Yeah, that could. Whew, that's a terrifying idea. Oh yeah, I just found that. Page 242. Some lovely humans in cages too.
And then it shows the absolute terrifyingness of the dragons, the brood.
Yeah.
Bunch of primordial dragons who are just like, let's go screw with people because we're dragons.
Yep.
And of course, you've got the Cthulhu stuff. Gotta always remember the Cthulhu stuff.
Yep.
Oh, the
Got the
crawling awful.
infiltrators. I hate those. Sorry. They terrify me. I
I mean,
mean, they look like grays and they take on your shape. It's
they're the epitome of the terror of the doppelgangers, you know.
yeah.
And one thing nice is when they give you the different places, like the Winter Gods section. I love how they took demons and basically make them minions of the Winter Gods. And they have tables for every bracket of play. So your first to four level, your fifth to 10th, 11th to 16th, and 17 on up. So that way, any level of adventure can come here and find something. I mean, granted, you're probably going to say, roll me an insight check to think if it's a fair fight, you know, and tell them you think you will die if you engage this creature. Because
Yeah.
more player characters need to con their targets before starting fights. I just got to say that.
Yeah.
But it gives great adventure seeds.
Yes. A lot of ideas in there. Like a little bit too much to cover.
Oh, you could have 5 or 6 different campaigns in this setting, and no two touch each other. You know,
Yes.
you could totally go for a campaign where your clan embraces the cold. You know, your spirit god actually embraces the cold for you guys. So maybe you're wanting to fight the frost giants. You know,
Yeah.
because we all know they're douchebags. The picture shows they've got mammoth tusk cages with people in them. That immediately puts you on the bad guy side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's the super creepy one, the Gift of Thirst, the vampires. And it does give a great storyline of how vampires were created and the fact that a small elite crew controls all these vampires and makes sure that they do not make more vampires.
I do like how the 12 vampires are known as the 3 and 9.
Yep.
Small detail to include. They have found a workaround for the hounds.
Yep. And it's their dirty little secret.
Yeah.
But you
It's
never know.
addition.
Maybe
Anyways.
somebody wants to find out their secret and they'll have to pay a price.
Yeah.
But anyone who can tie up an Efreet and keep it as a prisoner, come on.
Yep. Occurs to me that at some point you're going to be a many-level adventurer in this game.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. After you reach past 9, it's that's it. Many levels.
Yep. It's just
Yeah.
many levels.
Yeah.
It's 9 is the most powerful number, right?
Yeah. No many-level spells here. Just 9.
Oh, I just got to the creepy grays. They are super creepy.
Yeah. I got a little ahead. I hate those people. Sorry.
You got a little ahead, and they got big heads.
Yeah, they got big heads.
And of
I mean,
course,
credit due to the artist. If you have like a single image and I instantly hate that race and fear them, good job. I'm usually not that judgmental of anything, and that is, whew.
They're super creepy.
Yeah.
And then when you see one's head on a freaking sloth.
Yeah. A giant sloth, it's like, there is something going on there that I do not want to know about. I don't want to interact with.
Whatever your plan is, good day to you, sir. Good day.
Yeah.
I said good day.
This is the rejection of the call to adventure. No, thank you.
And then, of course, we get the City of the Dead.
Yes.
But it is nice that the undeath is totally got that Wom Somdi feel from WoW.
Well,
Yes.
the law of death is not just from
No, nope. But it's that's the latest interpretation of him I've seen. I was gonna say you could totally bring the best one, which is Coco.
Mm-hmm.
But then if you think of that movie, you get teary eyed.
No, it's a good movie.
If you don't cry in the movie Coco, you have no soul. My God, I'm only up to page 260. There's so much more in this book.
Oh yeah.
And the thing is, there's so much adventure fuel in this one. I mean, like I said, my first playthrough, I would totally say, is just do a getting your tribe from point A to point B. But
Yeah.
then they give entire campaigns at the end there. You
Yeah.
know, an escalating threat, a warlord arises, you know, and then you have to deal with it by tiers, which is nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that I like that it you start off with a very, I would say, normal prehistoric society, and then you get into the really fantastical, and it's like, I think that's a really great way to build a world in a way, just so you can your players often kind of start with that kind of scaling in mind in some way.
Exactly.
They start by saving kittens. They want to fight Cthulhu by the end. Cthulhu is around the corner here.
He is there with a bunch of storm giants fighting his tentacles.
Yeah.
And then of course, they do a great job of, magic items. Totally
Mm-hmm.
giving it that hardcore tribal feel. They add in giving you all the rules you need to hack 5th edition to make it fit. And then you've
Mm-hmm.
got the masks.
Yes. Yeah, for all I was a little bit critical about them not having enough information about the armor, they have so much stuff in here about that you build this armor out of that thing and you get this effect. It's like, yes,
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
And then they've got plenty of good ones. Like I don't know about you, but the apertures of mammoth. You're
Hmm.
basically building a mechanical mammoth out of wooden bones.
Yes. That's how you can do the artificers. You have the apparatus of the hawk and the
Yep.
mammoth. Just very big mechanical things that have no wheels in them somehow.
It's got 10 levers and you pull them because you can only count to 9.
Yeah. Has many levers in it.
As they just flash their fingers once. This many.
Yeah. There's a lot of great little things in here, from like small things that like will blind you to like, like I said, just armor built out of the remains of your enemies that has various effects. A gnomish crossbow that could be a light crossbow, a hand crossbow, or a heavy crossbow, depending on how you set it up.
And then it gets to my favorite part of the book, gods and monsters.
Oh
Because
yes,
have you guys looked at the monster templates? I
yes,
love that they created that for this game. Granted, it's going to make any monster more deadly because it makes them tougher, stronger, cooler. But
yeah,
just adding a d20 of a different abilities to a monster with one quick paragraph. It's not like a whole template to add. It's a beautiful, simple template.
yes. This is a part that I've been waiting to get to because I am so fond of this idea.
This is beautiful in any D&D setting. You could totally steal this. Like
Yes,
you know, climbing. Oh, look, this creature now has climbing for some reason. Well, because it's in a forest. Primordial, a berserker, an elemental, which, of course, in this setting, elemental anything totally makes sense because it's got that primordial energy corrupting it like a sorcerer would, you know. So it has access to these different things.
yeah. It can be as simple as having an extra fin on it. It can be as complex as having multiple heads, which is terrifying.
Or fungal. That's the worst one. That's totally Last of Us, the video game right there. You've got
Yeah.
a headless body with mushrooms growing out of it.
Oh dear. Yeah,
I mean,
just.
how do you make your bullet more dangerous? Give it horns, so it can dig through the earth and it can charge.
Mm-hmm. Yep, they have a spiny. I love the little pictures they made for this too. They have the spiny rust eater. I'd kind of like to know what the slimy rust eater would be, just slipping around and eating everything.
The worst part is, rust monsters in this setting must be freaking starving.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that until you mentioned it. Yeah, they are gonna eat
They're
the iron right
probably
out of your
not.
blood.
They're probably evolved later from a different creature,
Yeah,
so they probably just don't have them yet.
Though I
yeah,
do love the sailed basilisk picture. It does make the
yeah.
basilisk look cool having that big sail fin.
Mm-hmm. The tentacled Zorn is a horror that I
Tentacle
have never
Zorn
imagined.
that's some Cthulhu shit right there.
Yep,
It's an
I have.
abomination from the far realm and it's got tentacles.
Yep, I have the giant gaping maw and the tentacles to pull you into it. That's
The
gonna be fun.
the undead
But of course,
merman. And I'm sorry, the winged abeloth is ridiculous. That's a game ender right there. A psychic abeloth that can dominate minds and now it can fly too and it can swim. Nope.
can you say OP?
Put that Cthulhu shit back in the ocean, please, and keep it deep.
There's a big nope.
Nope.
Yep,
You
they
see
did
the
not hold back on this section of like, yeah, multi-headed cockatrices and
uh-huh.
and
And
elemental purple worms and massive gricks and just yeah,
I
everything
mean,
in here is a nightmare.
yeah, and they warned that brings the fear and the horror and the upping and the edge. I mean, and we haven't gotten to the most terrifying thing yet in the monster section. And you probably know the one I'm thinking of. You
Yeah.
know, it they have a great way of just introducing one creature that makes your players go, Nope. As you look at this beautiful, pristine mountain lake, it looks like Lake Arrowhead, and then a winged freaking abeloth flies out like a giant flying catfish and splashes. Nope. I don't care how much fish is in that water, it ain't worth it.
Yeah. No, it's a great idea of just like how to like mix up a monster just a little bit to make it like that much more horrifying.
Mhm. And the nice thing too is a GM, if you don't tell them, oh, it's a blah blah blah, instead you just describe it of what it looks like and what its additional adaptations are, and your players will just be like, "What? I don't get this, huh?"
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of like a giant centipede, but it's smoking, but it's also got spikes all over it. I don't know what it is, but we got to kill it.
Yep.
And then the book slides into the divine magic and the air quote gods, and
Yes.
it gives a great listing of it's not just D&D gods. These are beasts, plants, places, elements. It could
Mm-hmm.
be your god is a freaking waterfall.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just the waterfall sounds change when you pray to it or when you give it reverence, and it gives you healing powers because of its water, which
Yeah.
is and then, oh, lo and behold, the waterfall has a cave underneath it for the clerics, I mean shamans.
Yeah, they do a really smart thing here too, where they have all the guides for how you build it, and then they have the exact examples of their own, like gods that are established in the worlds,
Hmm.
and it's just like, yeah, okay, this makes more sense. You don't have to flip back and forth between different books or different sections of the book. It's like, no, okay, so the divine strata means this, and he has this strata. Okay, yeah, I get this.
Yeah, and it basically walks you through here's the 3 or 4 things you should smash together, and
Yeah,
that's how you describe the god.
yeah. No, I always appreciate when they have examples in the books because that is one of the things that I have had the most trouble with sometimes. One of my favorite stories is trying to get the correct CR for a horse and having that come out completely wrong because
Oh no.
horses should have a different CR than they do. If you use the calculating tables that the Dungeon Master's Guide gives you, I think it should be either a CR1 or a CR1 quarter. I think
Hmm.
one. Anyways, not important.
And
But
then
if you're going to build something, you want to be able to know that you're doing it right.
yeah, and you want examples of here's what it looks like because I just might reskin that instead of rolling dice and making it myself.
Yes, very much so.
And then we've got the bestiary, which has got lots of primordial savage creatures. The great wing, that's ridiculous. Again, thinking using one of those as a bird of prey.
Hmm.
Only it's got an intel of 2, leathery bird brain.
Yep.
But the fact that they give so many, and we of course in D&D already have a lot of dinosaur stats in the monster manual, but then they
Yeah.
give so much more.
Yeah. I mean, and it's not just dinosaurs. They have like the mammals. They have the supernatural. There's a lot of stuff in here.
Hmm. And then they give the oh my god powerful ones,
Yeah.
Thunderfoot. And then we have Dire Sloth, because who needs a giant sloth when you can have a dire sloth?
Yeah.
My clan is just going to follow this sloth and hide underneath it in case anything happens, because we know it's smart-ish and it's nice.
Hmm.
And then it gives the ghost monkey, the giant armadillo, the glunch,
Yeah.
because I want to ride
Yeah.
a praying mantis too, right?
Yeah. The horse ape. That's just a combination of words I don't want to see.
Yeah. And then we've got the newcomer creepy aliens,
Yep.
the Kelodoshronians, something something
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
Because we got to get some creepy space-like stuff in there somewhere, right?
Yeah. Nothing like having that supernatural aspect or
Oh,
UFO feeling aspect in the middle of there.
The laughing boar. There's nightmare fuel.
Yeah. Again, artists have done a fantastic job here.
Yep.
I mean, both with the little cave painting aspects, which are nice little accents, and with the boar, things like the boar, which are nightmare fuel.
You could have a cool Zug, or basically ride a giant hermit crab into combat.
I would do that.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Oh, this is my least favorite and most favorite of all the things in here, the sticky mouth.
Yeah, I was going to say you just got to where I was because I was waiting to reveal the picture of Sticky Mouth. That is absolute nightmare fuel.
Yeah.
When a
It's
slime consumes a T-Rex.
Yeah.
No.
And it doesn't have to be a T-Rex. It can just get on your horse, eat your horse from the inside, and
Yep.
Next time you walk up to your horse, it's going to eat you too.
I mean, it's classic 80s movie nightmare fuel.
Yep. That is. And they have a hedgehog. Should have given it more speed. Got to go fast.
Too much more speed and it can catch everybody.
Yeah.
Remember, after all, it is learning its new body.
Yeah. Yeah. They have the representatives of the gods, the envoys.
Aw.
Some interesting takes on the classic angels, from tiny to terrifying. Oh my god.
The envoy, the scariest orangutan ever.
Yeah. The woolly unicorn, there to stomp the shit out of evil. Gotta appreciate
The
that.
woolly unicorn. I mean, what else would you call him? He's a woolly unicorn.
Yeah.
The 6-foot horn of a woolly unicorn is where its magic is consecrated.
Yeah.
And then we get
nothing says primordial D&D like a woolly unicorn. I mean, unless it was a saber-toothed unicorn, and that's just wrong.
And then, of course, in the very back of the books to help people out, there's a name generator.
Yeah.
And, of course, inspiration. I love how the writer of the book said 10,000 BC is what inspired this book for him.
Yeah.
The original, not the remake, I'm assuming.
He never said, but with his age, it could be the new one.
It could be.
Yeah, he says the 2008 film in the credits.
Okay, so he reads the new one.
Yeah.
Yeah. It also includes Mad Max, which I have to give it compliments for.
Yep, to get that apocalyptic feel. Includes
Yeah.
Alpha, Apocalypto.
I liked Alpha.
Yeah. He has Quest to Fire on there, which you mentioned. Moana. Actually, Moana is an excellent thought for there. The whole island coming to life is very much in this whole...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Primal. Plus the gods are living gods. They're,
I give him credit for, looking at the crudes.
Yep.
It's funny because I was thinking of the crudes when, for part of this,
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing I really enjoy is when people admit that D&D is also a bit silly.
Mm-hmm.
It is.
We just got done discussing the woolly unicorn, so you need that element in D&D. I mean, there's that point where you make a pun and everyone laughs for 5 minutes, and it's like, well, and back to killing things.
I like things that can also poke fun at itself,
Yeah.
Who doesn't love a danger pony? Or otherwise known as a murder pony. Now we just have a woolly murder pony.
He's so fluffy.
It's so fluffy, I'm gonna die. No, it's gonna stomp you into the
Yeah.
ground.
He's so fluffy, you're going to die.
Yes, yes,
And of course, I
I
do
did
love that he credited some podcasts too, which is good.
yes.
I didn't like Shazam Fury of the Gods, but I loved the unicorns.
Taste the
The fact that
rainbow.
everything was scared of the. I'm like, of course they're murder ponies. That was like the best part of the whole movie was the murder ponies.
They're murder ponies. Everyone's terrified of them. So of course, I know the next question is okay. When are we gonna play a Plangia campaign, which I still gotta do. I gotta do.
We had a vote on this before we did the pirate campaign.
I know we were just about to do Plangia until the swing vote switched to Undead Pirates for the Monday game.
Yeah, yeah.
The worst one ever on the cover, Undead T-Rexes. Of course, not as
That's
bad as the one in the Tomb of Annihilation. It's an undead T-Rex in that adventure that's full of zombies that it's eaten.
that's okay.
Yes. So it eats
Yeah,
people, and its negative energy corrupts the corpses because it can't digest them. So the
yeah,
corpses then become zombies that crawl out of it. Super
Lovely.
ooky. Super, super ooky.
yeah. That's. I don't even know how to respond to that one.
So I will totally give credit on the back cover of the book. That goblin, he's a baller little shit. I don't know about you, but I want to kill the T-Rex.
I do too.
Of
I
course,
want to run too many different types of characters in this.
well,
I want to run.
that's the beauty with Plangia is depending on what your session 0 is, you could pick so many different stories to follow.
Yes. Yeah, that's the thing here is that it's like there's the more mundane, but like there's also like I keep going back to my Memento spell skin,
Uh-huh.
and it's like that could be an interesting story in itself of like, okay, how did I die?
Yeah.
You know, I need to solve this mystery for myself. And clearly that's just one player's story there, but there's a lot of interesting options from all these different perspectives of like, sometimes you need to steal things from other tribes. Maybe you need to do the intrigue aspect that I mentioned before. It's
Uh-huh.
just, I
And
love that they take the time to like say, yeah, it's a setting. You can do what you want with it.
yeah, and the tribe you end up with are the ones that found you and sheltered you because you woke up sick and tired and weak, and they basically got you back on your feet.
Yeah.
And that's why you're with the tribe that knows nothing about your abilities that you don't want to tell anyone about. But wait, you don't know better.
Yeah.
As the local shaman of the group says, dude, we don't do that here.
Don't do that.
You're welcome. Here's a cloak.
Yeah. We,
I
uh,
just had visions
We
of
thought that was a weird birthmark because you were all deformed, but now we can tell you're a spell person, so maybe cool that. It's all cool. It's all
And
cool.
of
I
course,
don't
with
remember any of my spells anyways because I forgot everything when I got melted
the spell
on
skin reminds me of the oh god, I forgot his character in Conan, the wizard,
Mm.
where he's got his
Knockoff
spells.
character.
Where he's got his spells all across his skin and stuff.
Hmm.
Yeah.
God, what is that setting? I think there's something in Salt Marsh where they have spells that you tattoo on your skin.
Yeah, that's when they first came out with the tattoos for 5th edition, which
Yeah.
they give a whole lot more here. But yeah, in what is it, Tasha's? They give more tattoos that you could totally use in this one.
Yeah, that would be a really interesting combination of things.
Of course, now that we mentioned 10,000 BC, there could totally be a campaign where you're a clan who was attacked by giants, who stole some of your people, including your beloved, and took her up to the giant city where there's a pyramid. 10,000 BC.
Ooh. Huh. one of the things they mentioned was I don't even remember where it was. Stargate.
Oh yeah,
That fucking hilarious. The Black Hounds are literally like, a Stargate-esque thing where they are keeping you down
they're
and you are
keeping you at that
breaking into their
level.
spaceship.
They're like, we don't need these primates to figure this stuff out.
Yes. And if you are like trying to break out of, this whole situation, that could be really interesting too.
Hmm. And another nice thing too is they totally give adventure bait. Like, hey, Dragon could show up and say, "Hey, squishies, why don't you go do this thing?" It'd be total lulls, and it starts the, oh great, you just started a war between different groups, and the dragon did it just for fun.
Yeah.
You know, he's totally gonna reward you, but he did it for fun to push over the toys and see what happens.
Yes, very much so. I mean, and there's the whole aspect of the land of Nod, which we haven't. I mean, we've
Oh
touched
yeah.
on, but it's like, yeah, you literally have the Fae like next door to you who could just decide to again knock over the pieces because they think it's funny and it doesn't affect them in the same way if it's cold outside and no one has food.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, did we break our toys?
Yep. We thought it was really fucking hilarious to lead like 5 different clans into the same route to do hunting gathering where there's not enough food for them.
And then watch the ants fight.
Yeah. Um, how are you gonna deal with that? You don't want your clan to die, but you also don't want to like kill the other clans for someone else's entertainment. Are you gonna break in and kick some ass there? That doesn't fix the problem.
The
But
desperation of, we need to parlay. We need to
yeah,
visit each clan at their fire so we can parlay, but you can be murdered once you get away from the fire.
yeah, yeah. I
Oh god, I could totally see a group doing a clandestine mission, waiting while the other tribe is feasting, sneaking through, and then setting up camp at the fire so when everyone wakes up, they wake up and just appeared.
yeah,
And then comes the waiting game of, I can't kill you in front of our fire because you didn't try to put it out in the night, so you're not total jerks, but I'm going to kill you as soon as you step away.
yeah. Our fire now.
And of course, they do
People,
mention
yeah,
that in the book that there are douchey clans that their whole job is to go and, instead of counting coup style, go put your fire out.
yeah. It is interesting to think how that works a little bit because if you're nomadic and you have a giant fire, how do you transport that without wheels?
Hmm.
Yeah,
I mean, it goes back to the quest for fire where you've got like a shell or some wood bark bundle that three people are carrying a bundle each to make sure one makes it to the end.
yeah, and
The
that's
Plangia Olympics.
yeah, it's a particularly vulnerable time for someone to steal your fire.
Hmm. And then of course you see lightning strike or a fire dragon start some stuff, and then you say, we must go get that fire.
Oh, sorry, loud clap there. That would be fucking awesome if like 4 people like or more like we're just like meeting together like randomly. It's like, oh, we're just from different tribes and there's this lightning strike in the middle of them. It's like, now there's a clan fire in the middle of us. Are we a clan?
there's
The
there's an
gods have
origin
blessed
story.
us.
Yeah. Oh, that could be a story. Excuse
And
me.
then you go back to that burnt tree and you find out that that tree is now a god because all of those people put so much into it.
Yeah.
And on a rare occasion, a branch will fall from the dead tree, and when it hits the ground, cinders spark and roar to flame.
Yeah.
It's total adventure fuel.
Yeah.
So I totally gotta say thank you, Atlas Games, because Plangia is definitely one of those ones to see. They do have PDFs, by the way, of different adventure books, as well
Yeah.
as a GM's screen. I've seen a PDF of the screen. I have not ordered it yet because I made myself promised to not buy more until we started a campaign. That
Yeah.
was my justification of don't buy it until we're playing it. But definitely check out atlas-games.com/Planegea. That's Planegea. Because it's great, because it's, got this Gaia going, it's got the Plangia going, it's got the, it's just good writing.
Yeah. It has a lot of interesting things to the setting. Seems well worth your time.
Yep. So I definitely think that's probably a good place to wrap it up there, because we could probably go on for another hour easy, just going back around stuff.
Yeah.
Because I know what character classes I would want to play in this. And I would love to embrace the survivalist skill usage part of the game. Because that's just a
Yeah.
fun mechanic.
Yeah, that could be a lot of fun.
And again, murderous halflings.
Love the murderous halflings. Ooh. Sorry, random thought. I was skimming through this and it's like, wow, if you put murderous halflings in the free citadel of like that would be fun.
I mean, you just
You
hear
have to
crawling
keep
in the
track.
walls.
Yes. Oh, that would be an interesting setting in itself.
I mean, on the plus side, the little pygmies only need to take down one giant and they can eat for a week.
Yep. Oh, that's an interesting concept there. If you're essentially slaves to the giants and you have to take out the halflings, which side do you take? I clearly don't take the giant side, but joining the cannibals and murderers also sounds unpleasant.
I'm thinking you're out on the plains hunting in waist high grass, already on edge, and then all of a sudden, the bard in the group looks over and sees a little shrunken head hanging on a tree, and he just turns around and screams, "Halflings!" And then you just see the shapes moving in the grass towards you quickly. Run! We have a 5-foot step advantage on them.
Yeah.
And then one person goes down, and no one turns around for them.
Yep. Just keep running.
Alrighty, guys. I would like to say thank you for joining me on this adventure to Planegea. And again, we're gonna have to totally put a poll going or something. See if maybe the Thursday night Age of Myth group wraps up shortly. If they want to do D&D or some other night that works for everybody.
All right. Well, this has my vote right now. I have a lot of. Well, I'm not running it, but I have a lot of ideas.
So many games, so many ideas. And
Yeah.
this would require a long session 0 to hammer out what everyone's wanting for an idea. I mean, I know what I would want. Like I said, I would just want a spring to winter campaign of don't die.
Yeah. I'm fine with that.
I mean, there's an old PS4 game I used to play called Journey to Ragnarok, where basically you're a clan in a village with a fire in the middle, and you got to protect this Yggdrasil tree instead of a fire. And you got to basically fend off everything that's coming to attack your village. And you start with a no-walled village, so you have to build it all up. And doing a traveling version of that, oh man. Oh look, there's a Jotun coming. It's about a week away. Do you move? Why, yes, you move.
Yeah.
Or do you accidentally piss off the halflings to go the direction of the giant?
Yeah.
His big toe could keep your village alive for a month.
All right.
Alrighty, guys.
Yep.
Thank
Seems like
you
that's
very
a good place to
much.
stop. Thank
Have
you
a
so
good
much.
night. And
Yeah.
Bye.
see you guys later.
See you later.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.